Hello, everyone. I'm Hillary Sloan, and this is Driftwood Conversations. My guest today is ceremonial facilitator and coach Hester Van Hoeven Ward. Hester hosts women's circles, conducts online and in-person temple gatherings, and works with goddess archetypes and grandmother wisdom to help women mark thresholds in their lives. Births, deaths, endings, beginnings, and all the messy in between. In this conversation, we explore what it truly means to live a spiritual life in the human body. Childhood gifts that had to be hidden to survive, the mask we wear to be likable, and the courage it takes to come out of the spiritual closet and be seen. Hester shares her journey from New York City to Venice Beach, moving through eating disorders and toxic relationships, then to the desert, a shelter in Kenya, and back home to Joshua Tree. We discuss motherhood as a process of death and rebirth, the car accident that nearly took her life, but instead served as a wake-up call, and the quiet, unwavering flame of joy that refuses to extinguish, even in the darkest hours. And my guest today is Hester
Van Hoeven Ward.
That is a great Dutch name.
Thank you.
So Hester, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and talk about what you do.
Okay. I am a ceremonial facilitator. I've been holding ceremony and holding space for about 10 years. It started with holding women's circles, and then I was also facilitating cacao ceremonies, and then I've moved away from that. Now I just host ceremonies for women who want to honor certain milestones in their lives, and then I also do coaching. So I do one-on-one subconscious freedom coaching because I'm a certified subconscious freedom coach, which I weave into some of my offerings. And now I'm really excited because I host online temple spaces, and now I've integrated it into a hybrid space. So it has the Zoom capability, so women who aren't in the local area can also participate in this sacred temple space. And right now I'm offering a 3-month temple. So we work with goddess archetypal frequencies because I'm an initiate of the 13 Moon Mystery School. So that is really about focusing on the different faces of the goddess that we all carry over the course of 13 moon cycles. And then I also work with the 13 original clan mothers, which is creation stories steeped in grandmother wisdom. And it's just a mixture of everything that I've taken on and carried through my sacred work and my journey, and then I bring it forward into the temple spaces.
Let's break this down a little bit.
Okay.
If somebody's listening who is not very versed in spiritual work.
Okay.
Or mystic spiritual work. I mean, there's all sorts of kind of spiritual work.
Right. Of course.
There's hypnosis, there's Reiki, there's all sorts of things.
Yeah.
So let's start
There's Bible camp.
Bible camp, absolutely.
Yeah.
Prayer circles.
Yeah.
There are so many ways to bring this very similar kind of things into people's lives, to open them to a more sacred space.
Yeah.
So maybe to break it down, what did you do to prepare yourself for this work?
Okay, what a great question. So it's just living my life, I would say, would be the number one preparation for this type of work. Allowing myself to go through a few of my own spiritual awakenings, I would call them, moments where everything that I thought I knew was shifted through an experience or a moment. And I'm happy to touch on a few of those, or one big one would say own personal spiritual awakenings and then my own spiritual seeking, finding, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear type of a thing. And I remember really just my soul was calling to goddess wisdom, ancient mysteries with deep feminine sacred wisdom. And then I found the 13 Moon Mystery School and found it to be a really beautiful way of walking in devotion and deepening and learning. And that is brought forward by Ariel Spilsbury. So she's the fairy godmother of our 13 Moon Mystery School. And it was a beautiful circle that I was a part of for 3 years. And then I also found my way to the grandmothers out here in Joshua Tree. There's a really beautiful circle women's lodge going on in Landers, and I've found my way into deepening with some of the wisdom. The women who own Rainbow Stew carry a lot of wisdom that they are happy to share with the people. They're in devotion to the all and the everything. So if I found my way there and was invited in, and I've just devoted myself to walking more deeply because I really value what I am receiving from that place.
What is the all and the everything? If I pick up terms that somebody may not understand, I'm going to stop you to explain.
Okay. So the all and the everything feels to me like it's up for interpretation. So this is my personal interpretation of this is I'm gonna bring it into my heart, and I'm gonna connect my heart to everyone else's heart. And that is the one heart. And to me, that is the all and the everything. It can also be creator, spirit, God, goddess, whatever we feel is the essence that runs through everything. The consciousness, I can view it as a consciousness. Sometimes I give this all and the everything, I personify it to be something more tangible for me in my day-to-day, depending on how I'm feeling. Sometimes it's my spirit bush outside that I go make offerings to and pray to, and that's my representative for that moment of the all and the everything, because I need something tangible sometimes to touch, to feel, to connect with, because that plant person carries the same energy and frequency, and in some ways the same consciousness that I carry. It is a part of the all and the everything. And so it is, there's a term, all my relations or all my relatives, and that plant is just as much a relative to me as my second cousin, or, so in some ways. So that can be the all and the everything.
Were you aware of this understanding when you were a child?
Yes, definitely. As a child, for sure. As a young adult, I deleted it all. Or didn't delete it. It was still there. But I had pushed it away, as I think a lot of people from my generation, older generations, the younger ones coming in, are oftentimes, it seems, choosing families to help nourish their gifts and are coming in with a different frequency that almost can't be muted. But for me, I know it's interesting. When I was preparing to come here, and I just got a vision of myself as a child. So it's so interesting that you asked this. And I know that I had gifts with premonitions, and naturally had relationships with the trees. I grew up in New York City for about 5 years. That's where I was born. And then I was moved to Connecticut, and we lived on a mountaintop house and buried in the trees. I didn't really have any neighbors. And I would go to the trees to pray, to be held in safety if my parents were ever arguing, and just find solace in the accompaniment of nature. I believed in the fairies. I know I saw them. I know in my dream time I would travel. And I was also afraid because I would see things like, what we might call darker entities, or, shadow beings, I would say, that aren't necessarily malicious, but can be frightening as a child. And I know that I was seeing that as well at night. So I think a combination of fear, not knowing how to place those gifts, and not understanding, maybe being too much for some people, and then also having a a clear understanding of what is acceptable in the world. I always understood, maybe one of my gifts, not just out of survival, but like having a read of the room of how to present to be liked, that I decided that there were certain things that were likable and acceptable. So I just let a lot of the gifts go.
Now on your journey, are you releasing those old concepts of being likable?
Yes, yes. And, so it's an interesting evolution of this journey, because in the beginning part of the journey, it was very important for me to really disregard those concepts of being likable. It was important for me to bury them, and I almost had disdain for them. But then part of the journey back to wholeness is to recognize that those served me and were gifts and are gifts and superpowers. And I can tap into that when I need to in certain environments to serve me. But knowing that I've done a lot of work with the goddess, for example, Kali Ma, and she, in some beliefs, we can call upon to help us with the masks that we wear, and the masks that are maybe had served us once, and then it's time to let them go because they are holding us back or keeping us from our sovereignty or keeping us from connecting to our wholeness. So identifying the masks and then burning them, but then also honoring them. So to say that the idea of being likable and knowing how to be liked, it definitely was a shadow for me for so long. And then also I honor how it has served me. And then sometimes I can dust that mask off and put it on if I need to.
It's probably a very good tool to use at times.
Yes.
It's a funny concept about protection. Mm-hmm. I don't like the idea of protection because it blocks us and puts a wall around us. But there are times when I need to know that somebody's not going to be receptive. Yes.
And it's particularly with spiritual work, and I think the journey to even being able to say that I do what I do, or to, I think it's called coming out of the spiritual closet for a lot of people. And it's a journey. I even changed my name to Hestara for a while because I thought Hester carried too much heaviness and was so associated with the past and like a certain connection to my family and expectations, and just felt heavier in vibration at that time. I just needed to just like go full, this is me. Then once I had worked with that for a while and used her as this sort of almost avatar or a part of me to exist in the world, then I was able to return back to Hester and really embrace her as part of who I am, and all of the resonance that comes with the name Hester and with the journey that I've had, and know that it's safe to be me, fully embraced. So to go back to the conversation about protection and and not binding ourselves, I feel like when we don't need protection is when we can recognize the potency that we all carry within ourselves, within our heart space. And there was a time when I thought, well, I don't need any crystals or any of this or any of that, or protection, extra protection, because I'm good, because if I live in that frequency, then nothing can touch me because I'm constantly surrounded by light and my guides and my angels. But then I realized, it's okay to have your little tools and to work with them because they're given to us from the earth and from ancient wisdom. And it's okay to have a little extra help sometimes. And also, it's mindful to know your audience and who you're speaking to and who you are exposing yourself to. And the more that you can allow that truth to exist out in the world, and then hold that you're safe because you're safe within yourself, because I no longer condemn myself for who I am. I allow myself to be me, and I trust in myself, and I feel the power in my heart. So that's, I think, the ultimate form of protection.
Did your family resonate with any of this? Do they resonate with any of this?
My mom does a little bit. She's an artist. She's always had a studio in New York City. She's a photographer. And she views the world through a very creative, vibrant lens. I believe that she has an innate connection to spirituality through creativity. She was raised Catholic and she discarded that right away. So like her relationship to spirituality is steeped in religion, which she rejected. Not saying that that's what she correlates to what I'm doing, but don't see that there's like a longing to dive in and understand it. And at the same time, there's acceptance and sometimes celebration with what I'm doing. And then my father, he and I haven't really been in communication for some years now. So because I am very similar to his mother, which was a complicated relationship. She was an interesting woman that lived alone in the woods and had bees and worked with plants and was an actress. And I don't know. I feel very connected to her. She's not here, like she's crossed over, but I think that connection between her and I has been difficult for him.
Boy, she sounds fascinating.
Oh, she is. She is fascinating. And
oh, my goodness.
Yeah, she's...
You should write a history of her. Well, not should, but...
Yeah. Well, and her sisters, my great aunt Barbara was a pilot in World War II, and her other sister, Charlotte, wrote for the New Yorker for the cartoons. She wrote the like little wording underneath the cartoons. And then they had another sister who died when they were all young because they were all burning leaves in Vermont and her dress caught fire.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's a very interesting story, all these sisters. Mm-hmm.
So when you grew up in New York, when did you get out here in Joshua Tree, and how did that happen?
Oh, my gosh, Hillary. Okay. I'll do the abbreviated version to the moment right before I arrived in Joshua Tree. I went to college in Ohio, and then I didn't really resonate with that experience super deeply. I sometimes I wonder what happened, like why. Nothing against Ohio, it's wonderful, but it just really wasn't a match for me. But I was very grateful to be in college and be there. I studied history, and now, I'm wondering. I love history, but I also was wondering kind of what was actually going on with the history books and things, because now that I know more, I just hold it differently, I guess I'll say. And I was also into acting. I loved theater. So I moved to New York after college and lived with my mom for a year. And I did not love New York. And even though I was born there, and I feel a level of homeness there's comfort in the smells and the sounds and like the pulse.
You did not love New York?
I did not love it. It just felt like stifling concrete jungle to me, and my soul was just shrinking, it felt like. And I loved the idea of California. I romanticized it, and then I moved to Venice Beach at 22 actually, and I thought I had made it. Like I just loved living at the beach and just the sunshine and at that time it was a vibrant energy with a little underbelly of grit that was reminiscent of New York. So I felt kind of just like comfortable, and it was edgy and it was cool. I realized quickly that I loved acting class, I loved theater, but I did not like the industry, and I was terrible at auditioning. I would just have panic attacks. It was too much for me. And I think on a soul level, I knew that really ultimately wasn't my path. And then I had a journey with healing an eating disorder while I was out there. I realized I had become very bulimic, which was a culmination of starting that when I was a teenager. It rearing up, I think, through just a sense of emptiness, of being in a place where I was no longer connected to what I was doing, which was acting. And this is like the point, I guess, of the spiritual awakening for me, is like when you feel that the life that you're living, or your persona, or who you are in the world at that moment, that present moment, is not in resonance with who you truly are. And it was just ripping further and further apart, and the expression of that was coming through with throwing up. it was like just throwing up this woundedness and this stuff that I needed to deal with, and recognizing that I was so drifting so far from my true self. So I healed that. I healed my eating disorder, and in my path of recovery, I realized that I wanted to go home and work on my relationship with my father for a year, and lived in Vermont. And then I realized that, and I worked at Planned Parenthood and found Vermont to be lovely, as it always is. It's amazing. But I was just not vibing. I was like, no, it's California. And, the relationship with my father had kind of plateaued. I had come there to do the thing, and I came to a level of acceptance that I think this is where we're gonna be, and everything else now is an inside job for me. So I can't be here for you, and this is not where it's at. So I went back to California, back to Venice Beach, and then was in a relationship which was pretty toxic. And I dabbled in drugs and did things that were in alignment with an addiction that he had, that I was allowing myself to partake in. And I found myself drifting again from myself, and I knew there was more to my life and meant to be awakened. So that relationship was such a gift and taught me so much. And
that's the relationship with your father?
No, the relationship with this person,
okay,
which is an extension of the relationship to my father, because it was all this healing, this masculine thing, right? So, and I took it real far, this healing, and then I ended that relationship, and I realized it's one of those situations where you're still kind of living with the person, but the relationship is over. And I had 2 friends out here living in Landers, and they said, Hester, you got to get out of that house. You guys have broken up. It's not healthy for anybody. You got to leave. Come live in our trailer in Landers. And so I did, and it was so wonderful. And the land immediately just like grabbed a hold of my heart. I felt like I could breathe for the first time in a long time because of the place, the land. It was so powerful for me, and I knew that I had to be here. I knew that I needed to come here and be here longer. So, and then the community so this is about 7 years ago. So the community was small to me, but so just enriching. And I realized I could be whoever I wanted to be out here. And I got involved in the theater, and I was just having a great time. And then I had a dream.
Which theater? 29?
No. It was down in Joshua Tree, and Lawrence was running it. And I don't even know if it had a theater name, but it was the backstage behind near the Art Queen. There was a stage back there.
Oh, right, there was.
Yes. Yeah. So I did some plays back there, and it was so great. And Lawrence was a wonderful director, and I loved it. And then I had a dream about Africa and Kenya. I saw it as this heart, and it was very clear to me that I needed to go there. I really wanted to go volunteer for survivors of sexual abuse. And so I found a grassroots shelter run by a woman who was from that area in Kenya, who was a survivor. And I went down there. I did a GoFundMe for my travels and for the shelter itself. And then I got myself to Naivasha, Kenya. And then I was in Naivasha volunteering at the shelter for about 4 months.
Do you speak the language?
No.
It's Swahili.
It's Swahili, yes, and I don't speak Swahili. I knew just a few words, and have forgotten most of them. I've forgotten most of them. And then I went on a big adventure on a pirate ship off the coast of Tanzania, because I took myself on a little bit of a walkabout, and I didn't think I was ever coming back to California. That wasn't my plan. I thought, okay, and then I'm going to go to Europe, and I'm going to just live there for the rest of my life, probably Amsterdam, part of one of my motherlands, and that's it. never coming back. But that's not what happened. And I came back for a few reasons. One, I ran out of money. And two, but the biggest one really was that, that was something I could have sorted out. But the biggest thing was I knew that I had had such a big experience and there was so much healing for me that happened at that shelter that I needed to come home and integrate it. And I knew that whatever I had learned and received in that experience would be no good to anyone unless I came home to exist in that new truth that I had. And I also received information through my guides that it was important for me to live in California in Joshua Tree, and that was something that I needed to do. So I got to do a little bit more exploring and did a little bit of time in Egypt for 48 hours, and then I came back to Joshua Tree and rented a home here, and lived in Joshua Tree ever since.
If I may ask, how did you support yourself?
In Joshua Tree
even before?
Yeah. Well, I had some money saved up. And then I really used that. And then I had a friend and my mom, sort of embarrassing to say on this podcast, but yeah, I had people supporting me or sending gifts, like to help me extend my journey. It didn't take a lot to live there. And I also just found ways to make it work. I can't even, it's just amazing how it happened, but there was a lot of outpouring of support and love for me to be there doing the work that I'm doing. And then certain close people like family members, or I had a really good friend who said, listen, I just want you to, be able to stay there an extra week. Let me help you. And so because of those wonderfully generous beings for believing in me and my own development, it makes my, it's actually a little emotional thinking about it because it's so loving and supportive. But yeah, and then I was also like, okay, well, if I want to stay, then you get into the murky waters of visa and things like that as far as working. And I just thought, no, it's for this reason and many more, it's time to go home.
Are you working here or just with your mystic work, if I may call it that? Or
Yeah, that's it. And and I had saved money up from other work that I had done, but there came a time when I had to make a decision to commit fully all in, and I have. And then also being a new mom, there was navigating with that as well, because I had let my career, I had developed, I was holding, I was coaching at that time, I had clients, and then I also had women's retreats that I was facilitating. And then I got pregnant, and then I let it all go, just went away, and then I started building it back up again.
Did you say you had a daughter?
I have a daughter, yeah.
How old is she?
She's turning 4, November 16th.
So she really is a new...
She's little, yeah.
Oh, so you probably are bringing in one of those new souls.
Mm-hmm. I believe so, yeah. Yeah, it's such an honor. It's such an honor. Yeah.
Yeah, it might be challenging too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, my little Scorpio. Amazing. Yeah. It's just been a tremendous gift, because I was 39 when I got pregnant, and I really had decided that I probably wasn't going to have children, and I was at peace with that. I found myself in a relationship around the pandemic time with somebody who really wanted a child. And so it opened up my eyes to the possibility, and then I tapped into a part of me that I had kind of shut the door on that was really, really wanted to have one. Women have to sometimes choose that and find peace in it if they're able to.
That's a big commitment. I do not have children, but that is a really big commitment.
Yeah, yes it is, Hillary. It's a big one.
And I was involved. I was a governess for years, and so I know the mechanics of it, but it's different when you can't walk away. What would you tell women that have small children and struggling with finding a new place in life, one that doesn't fit in convention?
Oh, yeah. Well, for me, I'll just speak in terms of my journey, but that was probably the biggest lesson for me was that experience of relating to the world, because the old version of me had to die. And she dies in a physical way when you are pregnant. And then because it's just the whole part of you is just regenerating and shifting and adjusting to become the mother. And then you have your baby. We went through a lot of challenges, her father and I, relationship wise, very early on. And it was clear very early on that we were not going to continue in relationship. Recognizing the journey ahead that would be of a single mom, which it took me a while to surrender to that notion. And then I ended up exiting the relationship, but that's it was definitely not meant to be. So, and that was beautiful. And then the real growth for me started to happen, because talk about like deaths of dark nights of the soul, and coupled with, my body was completely different. And one of the things I did in my life, my father is very athletic. All my half brothers, like super CrossFit athletes. I was an athlete. I was a spin instructor for 13 years on an exercise bike, for those who don't know what a spin bike is. So that was a big part of my identity, was being this fit person. Even after healing from the eating disorder, my physical outsides were a part of my identity. And so when I gained 100 pounds, which is a lot, it's a lot. When you have a baby, it's not typical. It needed to happen. And then I just had to let myself like completely re-relate to my body, re-relate to who I was, clinging to some old parts of myself. Also going through an experience of part of my managing my postpartum would be at night, I would drink wine. Sometimes I'd smoke cigarettes when I put my daughter down and to sleep. and then knowing that wasn't what I wanted for myself, and not knowing how to manage. And then ultimately having an experience where I was like, when my daughter was with her father, I went out with some friends who I used to go out with and who really liked to party. And I had this very emptiness inside. And after a drink or two drinks, I would just start to really feel the emptiness. And then I would have more drinks. And next thing I know, I'm in a car with someone who shouldn't have been driving, and the car flipped. And one girl went to the hospital, and the driver got a DUI, and I should have died. My side of the car was crushed. They didn't know I was in the car. I somehow crawled out. I was knocked out for a long time, and then I came to, and I crawled out of the car. And it was interesting, Hillary, because it was almost as if like the policemen and the people there didn't even know I was there. Like, didn't ask me any questions, didn't check in on me. It was fine. And then somebody who had seen the accident happen, who were the ones that called the ambulance, they said, "You need to think about why you're alive right now, because I saw that car and you should be crushed. Like, there's a reason why you're walking right now." And all I had was a little cut on my wrist, but it looks like I tried to kill myself, kind of a scar. And I thought, wow, that is really something to sit with. And so that really changed a lot for me. It took me a couple of weeks to get through the trauma of that, to really sit with how I wanted to exist now at this point. But I decided that I didn't want to be told again by the powers that be and my angels and spirit that I was kind of drifting again on a track that wasn't in alignment with why I'm here. And so I take that as so much grace, and I don't need to be told again. So I really went deep into honoring a daily practice of meditation and giving myself the spaciousness to allow the new version of me to come through, and allow the old version of me to honor her and let her dissolve away, and allow the wounds that needed to be heard and seen and felt, to allow them to the surface and to hold them as a mother would and love them back into healing. And so that has been a continuous journey. But as far as, this is like a very long roundabout way of answering your question, but as far as mothers, going through that transition and remembering who they are, it's almost like an invitation to dive deeply into who we've always been in a way that we might not have been able to do if we didn't go through this death, an experience of becoming mother.
I have a feeling, I'm sure that's so true, and that whole experience of pregnancy is, I'm going to put that aside for a moment because that's not my experience, but I think this is something that we're all going through, that to really anchor who we are on the soul level, that where we've been as a personality and ego has to die. And there's levels of that. And it's like levels that go from the lowest up and down and back down again. So I don't think it's just motherhood. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I would say that for anybody listening, if you're going through a deep, difficult transition, breathe into it, find a way to anchor yourself, and be kind to yourself.
Yes, yes. And thank you so much for saying that, because also I feel called to presence that this interview is happening on Samhain or Halloween, but some people say. And so this is in ancient traditions, Samhain is a time of honoring the death and the shadow, allowing just it to be buried underneath the soil so that it can regenerate and come out as a new. That's in keeping with the season and moving into winter and all that represents. And collectively, on a collective level, it feels like, as it's been, returning to this ancient wisdom, many people believe that this has been told in the past of these times, that we are being asked to collectively, which means on an individual level and then out, and then that's reflected outward, go through this massive dark night of the soul. And it is happening for so many. So it's like we have this day, and then we have this season, and then we have this collective experience. Mm-hmm. And it's beautiful. If you spend enough time talking with a person or people, you start to uncover that your experience is not unique. It's unique to you, but you're not alone. You're not alone. And that is so important, because then we can remember there's purpose in this, and to be kind to ourselves, because we came here to do this stuff. I believe sometimes those who have come through and gone through a lot of experiences and are going through something heavy, if you feel like your journey is like super intense comparatively, that could be the mark of a soul that is here to go through that alchemy, to return to your own awareness of your own love and your own wholeness. And in that journey, it is so powerful. The frequency that you carry through alchemizing something so deep is so powerful that it radiates out into the collective, and the people around you can feel it just by being near you. And that gives them the juice to, in turn, continue on their own journey of alchemizing. And then we have this beautiful collective experience of shifting. And yes, I love the guidance of kindness and compassion, because sometimes it can feel like there's something wrong with us when really there's something so right, and it's so beautiful. And it's very brave. It's very brave to be in these times and to walk through what we're walking through, especially with the awareness of what could be happening on other sides of the world or in our neighbor's yard, and how painful that can be. And to know, like, we're here and we're walking through it, and we're a witness and doing what we can do to empower ourselves to return to our own wholeness, because that's ultimately all we can do.
If you were to go back in time and meet young Hester, what would you tell her?
Well, I do time travel in my meditations to little Hester sometimes. And I look to her to tell me.
That's wonderful.
I look to her to tell me, how are we doing? And we've got this. And isn't this exciting? And I like to look to her. Lately, I've actually really been having fun with thinking of how much fun she's having seeing me. Like, wow, this is who we always wanted to be. And we're doing it. And we're doing it because little Hester believed that she was so magical. She did. And I'm returning to subscribing to that belief that I'm that magical, and it gets to be magical. I need her by my side. I think of her face. There's many faces of her, obviously, in childhood, because there's different ages and different moments, experiences. But I carry her with me because she carries the wisdom, carries my innocence, and she also carries the gifts of knowing what is right and wrong and what's true, because she's just this precious little being. So I let her take the wheel. And then sometimes I have to take the wheel, because if it's a moment where she's activated and she's scared, then I have to remind her, we're going to be okay. And I do. Sometimes she wants to come out and stomp her feet and have a tantrum. My relationship with my mother is a very great way of guiding little Hester back to remembering that she's okay, because she sometimes wants to act out with a grown adult acting out with her mom, and it's a time to go back to her. Yeah. And I know a lot of people can relate to separating from the father of the child or the parent of the child and all of the stuff that can come along with it. And there's a lot going on. And so I'm not going to get into detail about that just because I'm still in it a little bit. But it brings up a lot. And I've been walking through some heavy stuff with that. And I decided one morning, I think I had just had a session with a client, and because I was at my computer and I was starting to go into a little meditation, and then I thought, what I'm going to do is just do some automatic writing, because I haven't done it in so long, and I don't think I've ever done it with the keyboard, always with the pen, and I get tired writing with the pen. So actually, Hillary, I think that you inspired me too, because I think you had just spoken about your Substack, and I know that you receive and you have a connection to messages and guides. And I thought, why don't I do this? So I started writing, and I thought it was going to be this writing about the emotions and the heaviness, and I was kind of luxuriating in a way, and those the angst and the just letting it blossom out of me, this sort of noir experience. and then unbeknownst to me, I found myself within maybe 10 sentences, it just started shifting to joy. And it was a piece ultimately about joy. I don't even know if I'd call it a piece, but it was this writing about joy. And what I found so beautiful was that the thing for me with joy, and joy is a whole thing. I can't wait to deepen into your Substack. And then also, I know there's many teachings about joy, and oh my gosh, probably courses about joy and joy meditations. I mean, it's a thing. It's joy. And it's out there. One of the things that I wrote was, I don't know how I get up in the morning, and I don't know how I'm functioning through my day. I do feel like sometimes when you're in this state, and also the depths that I've committed to in my spiritual journey, is I am a lot of the times feeling like I'm in between worlds, in between heaven and connection to, the celestial realm and angels and my higher self and God. God's everything, but then also in the shadow realm and everything, the lower earth, where the ancestors might be, and the shadows. And I feel like I am existing in there. And actually, the work that I'm doing in the below is then being reflected above, and I'm in between. In this writing, I was sometimes I feel like I'm just this avatar, and I'm above and I'm below, but this is the culmination of the work that I'm doing in the two realms, and I'm just here. What it's like to be in this place, and sometimes it's difficult to connect to people when you're doing some deep work. It's difficult to move through. And so I said, how am I doing this? And then all of a sudden it was like, well, actually, even in my darkest hour, even when I've actually tried to extinguish it, there's always been the faintest glimmer, pulse of joy. And what I'm finding now is that I'm not just like moving through the day, which is interesting because what should be my darkest hour, it's a very dark time in some ways. Okay. But what I'm using now is it's fuel for me to be my most magnificent self in a lot of ways because I'm diving into prayer and meditation. I'm finding power in my ability to show up for myself every single day. And I go to the gym to stay strong, to feel powerful, to alchemize, to clear out energy through my hips and my thighs. But I also go to the gym to listen to music that makes me feel so joyful. And I was like, it's about the joy. And I realized I'm taking incredible care of myself. I'm taking the best care of myself I've ever in my whole life. And I'm simultaneously walking through something that should, for all intents and purposes, and potentially designed to destroy me. And I'm actually getting off on that I'm rising in this time. And in all of that, I'm wondering how I'm doing it. It's attending to the flame of joy every day, sometimes hour by hour. Sometimes joy needs me to take a nap, and then I wake up, and because my nervous system is still a little out of whack, I'll wake up like shaking or in a panic, right? And then I'm like, where's the joy? And I'm like, okay, what am I going to do to feel her? Oh, she's there. I call her she. She's there. She's there. She's always been there. She loves you. And nothing I can do can make her leave me because she is my pure life essence. And she is a part of my soul. She's divine. She's source. And so I can't disconnect from her because she's always with me. Like there's no way around it. And there's always a low hum. So I find her when I'm, wake up in a panic sometimes, and I do. And it's just my nervous system working through the underworld. You know what I mean? And then I'm like, where's the joy? Oh, there she is. And what does she want? She wants some coffee with some yummy creamer. That'll,
That is the balance right now. Yeah. And that's beautiful. But as we're getting close to the end, I want you to talk about your nonprofit.
Okay. Yeah. And that's interesting because I just thought about it too.
Yeah.
We're in tune.
I was trying to remember everything we had mentioned before.
Yeah.
So not to leave the joy hanging there.
Well, yeah. Because she's always there.
We're bringing her into the room.
Yes.
And through the podcast.
Yes. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
And I think what you're saying, what I'm getting from what you're saying, is no matter what our journey looks like, it's possible to reconnect with the joy. And by taking that step, we find our way into the greater holding of that essence.
Yes, yes, yes. And learning the little things that we can do to connect to the joy or tend to the joy fire. And sometimes the flame is so bright and you can feel it buzzing through your body. And sometimes it's almost impossible to detect, but it is there because she's always there. And then when we start to learn ways, it's almost automatic how to cultivate her to exist in it more and more and more. And ideally, I guess this is the masters. The masters exist in it all the time. Yeah, amen. Thank you, masters.
It's a lovely place to be.
Yeah,
when we find it and can radiate it out.
I love what you said before we got into this, and this is before we started the podcast, but we were talking a little bit about it. But you had mentioned, your own journey with joy and what it means to you. And I love this. It's like, it just feels like a refinement in the journey of joy, is that it's the awareness. And that I think is so simple and pure. And that's just presence.
And it's the awareness of everything. That the secret is we don't have to be wealthy or connected or living in a big house or whatever we project out there does not have to bring the joy. The joy comes from in. So we can be struggling, the car breaks down and they want $100 that you don't have, or whatever the challenges are. But the joy can still be there.
We can feed the joy flame. The joy can still be.
Joy is there.
It is there.
But we can radiate it and feel it and project it.
Yes.
And own it.
Embody it. Own it. Own it.
Own it.
Oof, I just got the chills.
Hester, this was great.
This was such a gift, Hillary. Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here and to sit with you and have this conversation. Thank you so much.
I really appreciate you coming here and spending time with me, and I'm charged. I'm excited.
Oh,
I'm in joy.
Wonderful. Enjoy. Thank you.
Listening back to this conversation with Hester, I realize how many deaths and rebirths can occur within a single lifetime, and sometimes within one season. From childhood visions and trees as friends to eating disorders, a flipped car, and the long journey of motherhood, Hester consistently returns to the same truth. There is a deeper self that never truly disappears, and joy that never completely leaves. What she calls the joy flame is something many of us recognize, that small burst of vitality that shows up in simple ways. A song at the gym, a good cup of coffee, a nap, the courage to pause and breathe when everything in life feels overwhelming. If this conversation resonated with you, discover more about Hester's ceremonies, temple spaces, and coaching at HesterVanHoevenWard.com. Follow her on Instagram and Facebook. This is Driftwood Conversations, and I'm Hillary Sloan. Thank you for listening, for nurturing your small flame of joy, and for participating in this experiment to live more awake and connected. Until next time, continue to listen intently, keep allowing yourself to evolve, and remember, joy is always welcome.